Everybody, welcome to Hanging on Monday Night. We got a cool cross section tonight. We've got Eric in Mass, we got Damon in Dearborn,
You got it.
John in Boston,
Hey,
Jay in Temecula, and Buddy in I don't know some Western Chicago suburb thing. I know it's there. It's a nice place. He lives in a nice place. And I'm Brian in Milwaukee. Before we go any further, want to go ahead and recognize our sponsors tonight, DJ Event Planner. Check them out in the description of this video, along with any of our other sponsors. You're going to see the thing rolling here on the side. Those are our sponsors, some of our sponsors. So thank you, DJ Event Planner. I was poking around on Facebook today, saw a post that Lou Paris had made in the DJ Help Desk. And he was talking about how some DJs dismiss mixing completely. And he showed an email that he got from a potential client. He was booked for the date, but they were saying, do you know a DJ who does transitions well? So see, clients want this. They want DJs who can mix. It's important to them. And I agree with that. But when I go through the comments on any kind of post like that, when DJs are talking about mixing in general, mobile DJs, it seems like it's kind of an all or nothing thing to me. And I find that odd, where it's like, okay, if you're doing quick mixes, you're quick mixing all night. If you're doing, intro, outro, 4/8 bar on regular radio edits, you're doing that all night. It seems like an all or nothing thing conversation. And I don't hear many people talking about mixing up your styles a little bit at events. I thought that'd be an interesting topic for us tonight. Who does that? Who mixes up styles of mixing and transitions at their events? Buddy does.
We all do, don't we?
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to elaborate on that a little bit, Buddy?
It's one of the things being a wedding DJ and, working in an area. It's not like working at a club, which usually a club is known for. It's a hip hop club. It's an EDM club. It's this, that. When you have a wedding and you have a diverse crowd, they have a little bit of everything. So you got to play a little bit of everything and then understanding how to transition from, let's say, a hip hop song into a country song into a EDM song into something else, and having those nice ramps and stuff like that, but also beat matching and making sure that it's a proper transition and make sure it's logical and people can follow it. So that way, when grandma's out there dancing to disco and you go into something newer, she's like still enjoying the beat. She's still enjoying the music. And I think we talked about this the other night too, is having that feel that people can still relate to the song. They may not know the song, but they can relate to it and feel the beat and enjoy the music and enjoy that time on the dance floor.
What you're talking about is continuity, where you are not, you're making a song change, but not necessarily a rhythm change. And because you're doing this change, somebody who may leave the dance floor will probably stay on the dance floor because they haven't heard a change in rhythm. They just keep going with it. And I think that's a great reason to beat mix. I believe that. Anybody else got anything that they'd like to share with the class on this?
hey, yes, I'll jump in then. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't play the same BPM all night long. You got to move it around a little bit.
Yeah.
If you can catch a song on the one and have it kind of fit, like to Buddy's point, you've got going from disco to country. You're staying kind of in the same BPM world, and they're out there dancing to the disco song with their people.
Yeah.
If the song changes to a country song and they aren't perceptive of it until you're into the country song, chances are their people will stay, they'll stay, and you're keeping the floor locked in on a BPM for a while. But sometimes it's fun to take a drastic left turn and just change the energy.
Yeah.
Like that used to be a club and bar thing. It's like you got people that want this, want that. Someone wants something that's at 92. Someone wants something that's up in the 128. It's like, it's a long walk. It's a good 4 or 5 song maneuver. Right. Or you just hit it and now we're here.
Yeah. I think there's power in that.
There's
power
just so it doesn't get redundant, because if you go, I've been where it's just the same beat all night long and it's dull after 45 minutes or so. It's like it's just that
it becomes predictable. I think
it sounds like one big long song.
It does.
That's what it does.
And that used to be the target when we practice, but in real life, you probably want to change it up a little more than that. You don't want to just be stuck on a grid, and just ride the 102 up, and it takes you an hour to get to 116, and then another hour to get into the mid 120s. It's
right.
It's very predictable, and
Yeah. Well, the right song to play next isn't necessarily going to be a song that's going to beat mix well with the song you're currently playing.
Correct.
No.
And I believe
the trick is if you're stuck in 96 and you want to get out, you find a song that ends cold, and then you can go anywhere you want after that because it's just opened up.
I truly believe there's power in tempo and key changes, because to Buddy's point, and it's a great point, when you're doing a disco song that grandma likes going into country, maybe grandma's not into country, if you beat mix this, it's almost the Jedi mind trick where she would normally dance to it, but because it's the same beat, she's doing it. It's still kind of familiar from the last song. It's the same beat. She gets it. She likes it. I think there's power in drastic changes too, where we were here and now we're going to go here. It's an abrupt key and tempo change, and that's when people take notice. Buddy's example, they don't notice. This example, they do, and sometimes that's good because people who aren't dancing, oh, something's different. I like this.
Yeah,
almost forces them to pay attention.
Yeah. See, when I learned from doing weddings and stuff, about every 3 to 4 songs, change it up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing, mid-tempo R&B or whatever, 3 or 4 songs, switch over to like a rock set.
Yeah.
3 or 4 songs, switch over to something else. That way you still working something for everybody, but your style is constantly changing at all times. So
that's a good rule. I
you
like
see,
that.
sometimes I'll do sets like you just said, Damon. Like I'll do like 2 or 3 rock songs.
Yeah.
And other times I will go from dance to country to rock, and it's whatever I think is going to work at that moment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And again, it makes it different. It makes it interesting. They have no idea what's going to hit them next at that point. And to me, that makes it interesting.
You're not predictable at all. Me,
but for them.
Yeah.
Half the time, I don't know what I'm going to play until 30 seconds before it ends, And you go, oh, I'm going to do this. And you pray.
I also believe that it's important, to your point, to keep it interesting and to not be predictable.
Yeah.
That is so key. I've been places before where I almost know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Or I know how we're going to get into it. It's so predictable. It's cool. Yeah.
I've always said that. Don't be predictable. Especially, in this job, you can't be predictable. Like they know, okay, Rafa's the light. He's going to do that next. Watch. Or if he's going to do Rapper's Delight, it's like, okay, it's going to be a 4-bar transition or an 8-bar transition because he always does, or she always does that, or they always do that. Oh, they're going to scratch this one in. There's going to be scratching it. You just know because they keep doing it over and over again. But, I really, ultimately, I think that all of these skills are valuable and you can use them to your benefit and your audience's benefit, mixing it up all kinds of different ways. Whatever happens to work best for the audience is what you should be doing, and you should kind of intuitively know that as a professional, I would think. And there is no right or wrong answer here.
No, right? It's all art. It's art. So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any absolutes, and I think this is kind of where my comment came from, or I'm thinking to myself, how come it has to be all or nothing?
Right.
How come it has to be a quick mix all night? Or how come it has to be a beat mix all night? Or no mixing at all night? Or 4-bar transitions or 8-bar transitions? Why can't we just say, hey, these are all skill sets that we can use throughout the night in sets to keep it interesting? That's my style. That's what I like to do. Jay hasn't said a word, and I'm worried. He's saving it all up for the end.
In Jay's defense, he tried to in the beginning.
I know, poor Jay. He can't get a word in edgewise. He's been away for a week. He's out of practice.
Yeah, what's going on here?
What I like to hear is Jay do the chicken dance into a song.
I could do it.
Now, Brian always saves the best for last, so go ahead.
No, I take a lot of, because of, I started weddings slamming. I mean, I did years of weddings just programming.
Mm-hmm.
Mixing wasn't really a thing because I didn't come from mixing. I started with talking over like the breaks of every song. So the mixing aspect was like foreign to me. and I was having good success, and I was working 5-6 days a week for 7 years on boats. So, you know, the mixing came with time.
Yeah.
But then I noticed when I got with, you know, with the Pioneer crew, they were all established mixing DJs. And I'm like, okay, I need to up my game. And then I went through a phase where I was mixing cocktail, dinner, ceremony. It was like, it got crazy. Now I think mixing is the tool you use when you read the crowd. So I don't think there's any wrong ways to mix. I'm not a good quick mixer. I know that. I had somebody show me how to do flip in Serato, where you can break tracks into like 2 minutes by moving the intro to the outro and the outro to the verse. And it's great and it sounds really good. But as a music fan, it bores me.
I think
It's not for you.
I think you're right. In heavy doses, it's boring. I tell you where I like it, and I'll make this comment real quick because I did make this comment on Loose Post, and because I'm an old man, I can say this: these kids who talk about quick mixing today talk about it like they invented it.
Right.
Yeah.
Doing mega mixes a long time ago. Chicago House probably didn't invent it, but they made it big. They were the guys who did it. And this was back in the 80s. So no child, you didn't invent this crap. But,
well, it's really funny. I mean, I was in New York last week and I was talking to a DJ who's friends with like Louis Vega and all these guys. And I mentioned going to different places. And I mentioned you, Brian, because I'm like, yeah, I've got a buddy, Brian Red. And it's Frank from Mainline out in Long Island. You'd know him if you saw him.
Yeah.
He's a suit away from either being in the mob or a cop.
Okay.
Thick Italian accent, slick back white hair with a tan. Like, you know, he's in the room.
Yeah. Every other guy in Atlantic
Super
City.
nice guy.
Yeah.
But he's got a DJ. He owns Mainline DJ. Like, it's a DJ store. And he came up spinning at all these clubs. And I said something about the difference of kids today and then and mixing. And he's like, you know, that's the thing in New York. We always had, everyone was so competitive. He goes, you know, if I was doing this track, someone had to get a better remix than me and they wanted to show me up. It was like a game. And I said something about, I went over to the Loft, which is like, I think 654 Broadway. And I'm filming and this and that. But when I mentioned him, he goes, oh, I knew David. He goes, he didn't mix at all. He goes, Larry barely mixed. He goes, I used to go to the garage all the time. But Larry
David never mixed.
Yeah. But David could program.
David
and
Mancuso,
Larry
by
could
the way.
program. David Mancuso.
Yeah. He was a very good programmer.
They were programmers. And I said to him the same thing I've said to every DJ. If I gave you the choice, if I could wave a magic wand, you could be a perfect mixer or a perfect programmer. Any DJ with a brain cell always says programmer.
I'll tell you what I think is really interesting, going back to the quick mix thing. And I'm starting to do it a little bit, and I'm enjoying it. There are certain genres of music that you want to hit on, but you don't want to stay in for too long.
That's
valid.
So, you know, freestyle is one I'm thinking about that Art does this. I'm doing an event with Art on Saturday. I'm doing lighting. He's going to be doing the Kinsey. But what Art always does, he does the regular Kinsey music and the top 40 music and whatever the audience likes. But he always does a freestyle mega mix. He does it live. And he does it for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And he throws in all the bangers.
I think,
and that's your freestyle for the night. He hasn't played any other time. He gets it all out in that mega mix.
Yeah, he get 8 or 9 songs in that mix quick.
Yeah.
Do this, a verse of this, jump, you know.
wow.
Exactly.
Stevie B's and Lisa, Cover Girls, Expose, Bing Bang Boom, just knock 'em.
Yeah, Little Susie.
Probably
Yep.
the best genre to quick mix, I think. Freestyle.
It makes sense.
Yes.
I mean, even if you,
Well,
okay.
Back in the day, we wanted to hear those whole songs, but now just because of the time constraint, can we just get a few of them in so we can hear Stevie B, hear Debbie Debbie, hear?
I'm talking about a Kinsey where they really want to hear the reggaeton, they want to hear the regional music, they want to hear the new stuff, but they want this old stuff. So instead of staying in this for 45 minutes, let's do a mega mix.
Just give it a taste.
And I almost feel like that it's if you're not good at it live, it might be cool to create something at home and have it as a mega mix that you can just play, kind of like the old Jock Jam stuff. Exactly like the old Jock Jam.
It's funny you say that, Brian. I remember to this day, probably 99, 2000, doing a party, and I'd just gotten an Ultimix CD or a Funky Mix. It was one or the other. And it had a Michael Jackson, like 10-minute mega mix.
Yeah.
And I put it on, and I probably had 4 people come up and complain to me. Oh, boo, you didn't play all of Bad. You didn't play all of Black and White.
Right,
Boo.
right.
And it was the last time I ever played a pre-made mega mix that was given to me. Now, I think what you just said is 100% accurate. If you want to make a really nice freestyle mega mix at home, if you're not going to do it live, do it and look like you're doing it live. Pretend you're doing something.
Whatever. Just
whatever.
Just so you know the direction of it. But I just think today what separates the good from the, don't care DJs, it's their ability to play. That wedding I did a few weeks ago, Little John turned down for what into Dancing Queen. I normally do Little John turn down for what into Luke Bryan, Country Girl Shake That For Me.
Right.
But I try to make tracks not make sense. It only makes sense if you were there and saw the group. I think young DJs oftentimes get stuck on they're only buying remixed versions of a song. They're buying
there's that.
Whoever made this mix or the so-and-so mix. So they've got acapella ins, they've got fades, they've got beats in the right place. Older DJs came from live music and the 4x4 stuff. You realize Funky Mix Ultimix goes back to the 90s.
Yeah.
I started. So it was very easy to be like, oh, these are all matching up. I can put a loop here and I'm going to sound good.
Well, I think a lot of that goes back to playing what's right for the audience that's in front of you.
Oh, I think it always comes down to reading the crowd.
Damon, you're itching over there. I said something earlier. You
Well,
didn't like it that I was doing freestyle mega mixes.
No, it wasn't you that said. Eric said freestyle was some of the best music, the quick mix. Well, and I have to disagree with you on that.
Okay, what do you got?
Well, just because in Detroit, we play a lot of ghetto tech and what we call the Miami bass music. Okay. And if you're familiar with that stuff, after a while, after about a minute, it gets repetitive.
Yeah.
And you need to get out of it and get to the next song.
Yeah, nobody needs to hear 9 minutes of new.
No, I see people start like walking off the dance floor. It's like,
So with that stuff, we quick mix that. I grew up quick mixing that from the 80s till now still. It's like a verse, chorus. I'm out to the next song, especially with the Miami bass stuff and the ghetto tech stuff. It's like boom, 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 in and out. But at the same time, we do know when to like, all right, it's time to let the song play. We gotta let it breathe. We switch to different genres. We gotta let this breathe a little bit. So
to Jay's point with the Michael Jackson, there are people who are going to want to hear the whole Billie Jean. They're going to get mad if you cut it off early.
At least 2 verses of it. You gotta get let it breathe.
Well, do you remember when DJ Earworm would come out at the end of the year with the mega mix, like the super mashup?
Yeah.
And you'd have like 12 things layered on top of one another, and like it's it's like blowing all your greatest hits for the night. Like you just cleared like 45 minutes. Library
no one had any time to enjoy any of them individually. It was,
but you could just hear. I was like, is that Bieber? Is that Katy Perry? Hold on, was that just Sia? What's going on here? It's like that's when I was like, that's a different level. That's make that at home and bring.
Well, he's doing it back and forth too. He's like the Katy Perry hook comes, leaves, comes. So he has this great. I think his stuff his video is even better than his music. Yeah, like it's holy jeez.
That keeps the crowd engaged, and they don't know what's coming next because it's just coming at them from everywhere. And it's like, was that Usher? And like, and just all these different parts and layers. Yeah. These mixes that we do, like when we're just talking different styles of mixing, we'll use ice cream flavors if that's okay with Damon.
Yeah,
you can mix it on the 4, you can mix it on the 8, you can hard slam on the 1, you can overlap, you can just come in on a stem. You should know we should have lots of tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, thank you. And that's really, I think, the point I wanted to get across with this show for anybody who's watching. Instead of just putting your foot down and digging in on a quick mix or beat mix or whatever you're doing, understand that mixing up your styles throughout the night
having all of these tools at your disposal and using them appropriately, I think is going to serve you and your audience incredibly well.
100%. And I don't want to turn this into a second show, but the one thing I've noticed nobody's mentioned that I've been thinking about is also the issue of the younger gen and older gen as well. I don't think it's so much age as much as societal. We're in a world of 60-second Instagram reels.
Yes. Yeah.
YouTube shorts. I mean, I can't help but think that certainly has got to lead into get out of the song. I mean, you had to pick the needle up, pick up the record, flip it over, drop the needle, pick the needle, drop the needle, or rewind the cassette. I mean, the first time I got a CD player and I'm like, wait, I can just pick songs at random.
Yeah.
Now it's like there's this streaming mentality of, okay, I'm done. Well, you're one of 500. You know, that's it. Like, it doesn't matter that you're done with the song. Somebody out there wants to hear the 4 minutes and 20 seconds of Usher.
Yeah.
And fortunately, they hired me because I play the 4 minutes and 20 seconds of Usher, you know. So I think that's certainly helping young DJs to get a little bit squirrely as to how long they think tracks should play.
Yeah,
we were in Vegas and a guy did literally 30 songs or 32 songs in 60 minutes.
Yeah.
At Taboo. I was with Nick Hahn, Joey Fatone of NSYNC, Davey Dave, and Pulse. And Pulse and I just looked at each other like, seriously? Is it? And this was years ago. This has got to be 10, 12 years ago.
Sure.
We just looked at each other like, this guy's insane. Because his dance floor kept doing this.
Right.
It'd run out for Beastie Boys and then run back and leave, and then come back for Usher and then leave and then come back.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is terrible. I looked at Pulse. I'm like, do you do this? He's like, no. I'm like, me neither. Why is he doing
to the
it so
extreme?
short?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
And again,
But today that would be the norm in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's the norm now. 2 minutes, you're in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like quick clubbing. It's like, okay, I can hear all the songs that I want to hear in 15 minutes.
Like speed dating all your favorite songs.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is. Yeah, like gotta let that stuff kind of savor a little bit.
Well, do you ever hear the hook of a song and get through it? Like when I did that gig Saturday night, I was telling you guys about off air. I was playing Bumper. We had live karaoke with a band. Well, when their song would end, I immediately had to bring in mine because the guy running the audio killed the channel for the singers. So I constantly just kept, and I found I was going to famous tracks and just hitting hooks. Mm-hmm. Like I did Sandstorm. Well, I only did it for 25, 30 seconds while I talked over it.
Right.
I went to the hook.
Yeah, buffer stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and the crowd loved it, but I did the beginning of Macarena and they all started to do the dance.
Right.
So it's one of those things where they got the same thing out of it that I did, was hit them with something good for 30 seconds, then go on to the next.
Sure. Well, yeah, in that case, absolutely. But
yeah.
No, I just, really wanted to throw this out there because every time I see this conversation, it's either you do this particular style of mixing for 4 hours or you do this particular style of mixing for 4 hours. No. Take them all. Use them all.
Yeah. It's interesting that the client wanted a mixer, though. They wanted someone who could put it together smooth. That was kind of what the request was. Want someone that can do that.
I wasn't talking about necessarily the client. I was talking about the DJ's comments.
Yeah.
With this stuff and how it's approached, because I see it. And what I think is happening a lot of times, you'll have somebody who doesn't know how to mix defending not mixing. And then you'll see somebody who just learned how to put two beats together defending putting two beats together all night long. Like they just can't wait to get in front of an audience to put two beats together. And it's like,
oh, that's it. Oh, and the speed mixers too. It's like, don't take a song away from a crowd if they're digging the song. That's right. Don't serve yourself, serve the people in front of you. Like, oh,
breathe a little bit.
They just got out there, it's.
I'm sure all of you have been asked this question. I have for 25 years. And I've always answered the same way. Hey, by the way, if you're playing a song and people aren't dancing, do you play the whole song? And I always say, no, I have no issue in stopping what I'm doing if it's not working.
Yeah.
Obviously, my goal is to not play the wrong song, but we've all also probably had this wedding or event where you've played Michael Jackson into Justin Timberlake into like Journey, Don't Stop Believing, and no one is on the dance floor. And you kind of look around and go, these are obviously aliens because they're not human.
It's too early.
I've given them 3 bangers.
Yeah.
Sexy Back, Billie Jean, and Don't Stop Believing. And then you just realize, okay, I need to go entirely different direction. And you go with like Lit or Jimmy Eat World, and they all roll out, and you're like, oh, okay. We're going to be one of those.
You crack the code at that point.
Or because you're not going to kill Billie Jean on the the second verse. Like,
there are other times when that happens. You put the bangers out there and they're not reacting to them. But what I think it's important to do, and Jay, we talked about this when you did that gig with Ada, or you were at the Ada's family's gig.
Yeah,
pay attention to what they're doing. Are they doing anything? If they're sitting there with their arms folded staring at you, find their vibe and play to them. But if they're engaged in conversation or doing something other than dancing, maybe that's just what they want to do. So play something and at a volume that works well for the activity they're choosing to do right now.
Or go to the famous sing-alongs.
Okay, go vibe.
Whatever. I don't want to interrupt the conversation for any reason. I don't want to make them sing. I don't want to make them dance. If you're doing what you're doing, do it. We can dance later if you want to. I'm here to facilitate a service of music. And if you choose to dance to it and that's what you want to do, I will facilitate that. If you don't want to, I will facilitate conversation. I
think that's more of a corporate slang. I found corporations that people are not with their wives, not with their loved ones, dancing. And I've told clients, you know what? The group you're describing to me is coming off of a 9-hour day in a convention center. They're coming in for drinks and some dinner. I don't know that dancing is on anyone's mind. Well, we've done this before where they all danced. I said, great. Why don't we work them up to that? I think that involves alcohol and maybe a little resting.
There's a phenomenon in the Puerto Rican culture anyway, and I'm sure it's in others, but I see it a lot where the girls just dance together. It doesn't matter if their guys are there or whatever. It's sisters,
that's white
friends,
too. I know you're not white, but in the white world we do that too.
We just play Unwritten. All the girls will get out and dance together. We just Saturday.
I'm not alone. I'm playing Unwritten.
I'm tapping Bill. I'm like, play Unwritten. He's like, what? And like, just play Unwritten.
I'm talking about like formal discipline dancing, like salsa merengue. There's spins involved the whole bit. I mean, they'll do that. It's not just
the white girls don't do that.
Dancing in a circle. It's like ballroom almost, but not. So, but anyway, why don't we put a fork in it, guys? We've had a pretty good show. Excellent. Listen, good infos out there. John could do something with this. We didn't go off the rails. I don't think.
No gratuitous language.
No, not yet. So let's quit while we're ahead. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next week.